What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be giving my top 10 Star Wars shows in honor of the Ahsoka show, aka Star Wars Rebels Season 5, coming out this Wednesday. And make sure you guys subscribe down below to see my reactions to the show starting this Wednesday and other Star Wars and gaming related content. Okay, let's hop into this list. Book of Boba Fett is my number 10 on this list. Book of Boba Fett was one of my most anticipated shows at the time. Obviously, we all love Boba Fett. We all love the original trilogy. We all maybe don't like the prequels, but I love the prequels. And having Tamora Morrison come back and resume his role of being a Fett, of being a clone, was really exciting to me. And he was in Mandalorian Season 2 and all that, and he was great. He was great in that. But this show just didn't land for me at all. That's why I have it at number 10. It had 3 really good episodes, and they all really didn't involve Boba. Like, those were the worst episodes in the season, were the ones that had Boba. The best ones for me were the ones that had Luke, Grogu, Mando, Din, same thing. But that's just, it didn't land for me. I think it had like 3 good episodes in the season, and 5 absolutely like mid-level episodes that weren't awful, but leaning towards awful more than good. Got Star Wars Visions, okay? Star Wars Visions is an animated kind of anime style of Star Wars. It's really fun. It has a combination of like a million different studios, not a million, it only has like 10 episodes a season. But so like 10 variations of like anime studios, and they all work on their own little short story in Star Wars, and they're all have their own art style. They all are pretty dang good in their own way. Some of them are more leaning towards kids, some of them are actually like that should have had its own season, but it's not like a culmination where like it's an actual season. That's why I kind of have it at 9. If it had its own season, if some of these short stories had their own season, this might be higher, because I'm really into the animated Star Wars. Like, that is what I love. Some of these live action shows haven't landed so much for me, but these were really fun. All of them are pretty solid. There's a few that are absolutely weird and terrible, and I honestly skipped through them because I was like, there's got to be something else, right? Like, I can vividly remember Season 1, Episode 2 being awful, and I was like, skip, because Season 1, Episode 1 was so freaking good, and then I was like, what the heck is going on? And obviously there was better ones than that, but yeah, that was my that's my number 9, and moving on to my number 8. Number 8, guys, you might hate me for this, but I love myself for this, because I'm being honest and true to myself. Obi-Wan Kenobi is my number 8 when it comes to Star Wars shows, guys. I absolutely was so hyped for this. Like, this was honestly the most hyped I've ever been for a TV show, I think, in my life. Obviously, I haven't been alive too long to go through so many TV shows and stuff like that, but this was absolutely insane that we had Hayden Christensen coming back as Vader. I mean, he hadn't really played Vader, like, after just suiting up in Revenge of the Sith, And then we had Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, and the list goes on. Not really, that's pretty much it. But they really didn't tap into Obi-Wan and Anakin enough, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader enough. Like, I feel like the show was more about other characters, more about the Inquisitors, more about Leia at some points, but when they really leaned into Obi-Wan, when they really leaned into Darth Vader, is when it was at its best. But I feel like it wasn't executed well enough for me. There was some really, really good episodes, really good scenes. Honestly, the music was a little trash for me, besides Obi-Wan's theme by John Williams. But overall, I thought it was a really decent show. It was nothing special, and it just didn't hit the way I wanted it to hit. But I wish they could do it over, but it is what it is, and it wasn't awful. But it definitely wasn't great. So that's my number 8. In number 7, you guys are like, how the heck did this make it over Obi-Wan? But yeah, if you guys haven't watched Star Wars Resistance, it's another animated show and it was on Disney XD. I know a lot of people haven't seen this because I've talked to a lot of my Star Wars friends, and they're like, I've never seen Star Wars Resistance. Well, it's actually freaking good in my opinion. Like, I think this is where the list gets a little better, where the stuff gets a little better. But Star Wars Resistance is great. Like, all the spaceships, all the characters, like, all the designs that are going in. Like, Dave Filoni, like, popped off harder than he needed to. Like, they needed to have this show somehow before like episode 7, 8, and 9, so they can episode 7, 8, and 9 can get some inspiration on what to do, because obviously this did take place, I think, during episodes 7 and 8, sometime in between that. And I'm honestly, it's been a while since I've watched this show, but I'm remembering like some character named something Phazon being like one of the coolest characters I've ever seen in Star Wars, and I hope we get Filoni to touch back into base. Somehow, maybe with his movies that he's doing, with his movie that he's doing with the whole Mandoverse culmination, maybe he can get some of those characters, since it's closer to the time, even though those characters are a lot younger. But it is close. Maybe he can get like their parents in their movies or whatever. But that's all I really have to say about Star Wars Resistance. Is it's a really fun, really good show that is somehow more entertaining than Obi-Wan. And number 6, I have Tales of the Jedi. Tales of the Jedi was very short stories, culminations of stuff we wanted to see, kind of. Like the Yaddle episodes, where we were like, what the heck happened to Yaddle? Because she just disappeared in the prequel trilogy. And we finally got to see what happened. And it was Dooku when he turned to the dark side. Dooku did some damage, and Dooku's a menace. And we saw some other cool things like Ahsoka, like saving farms and stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm not remembering all these episodes, but I'm remembering wanting another season. I think they announced another season, so this is really exciting. And these were really, really good. Like, these episodes could have been longer. They could have been full-on shows. Like the Dooku stuff. Young Dooku could have his own show, and I would definitely watch it. I mean, I don't know if we would. I think the actor's dead, so I don't know if they'd want to do, like, replace him and do like a younger Dooku. I don't know if that would be okay, but I think maybe having an animated series with Filoni attached to it would be really cool to see. So I got number 5 now. My number 5, I'm gonna go Mandalorian. People, y'all might hate me. I think Mandalorian at its best is one of the best Star Wars shows. It might be the best Star Wars show at its best. But when it's not at its best, it's pretty slow. It's pretty boring to me, in my opinion. Like, season 3 maybe took it down a notch for me. If this was a couple years ago and I was giving my opinion based off of season 1 and 2, I might say it's number 2 or 3. But just the fact that we've had more shows come out, and we've had season 3 of Mandalorian come out, which was, in my opinion, kind of a waste of time. I didn't know what was going on in the show for the first 6 or 7 episodes. I was like, where are we going with this? What's going on? Like, what is the point of all this? And the fact that, I don't know, like, if you didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, which I did, but if you didn't, as a fan of the show, you'd be like, why the heck is Grogu back with Mando all of a sudden? Like, I didn't like that was in Book of Boba Fett, but that doesn't hurt. That made Book of Boba Fett better, even though it's still number 10 on my list. But yeah, I needed to see more of that, like, Mando Grogu relationship, and like needed to see more of like a villain in that last show. Yeah, it's about the Mandalorian, and yeah, we saw a lot of Bo-Katan, and I love Bo-Katan. But it just didn't hit for me because the story just wasn't there. It was there in episode 8 and episode 7, but like in the first 6 episodes, there was not much happening at all. Like, we had a bunch of random side things with like Jack Black and Lizzo, and like they weren't hitting for me. But I got my number 4 show, Andor. I really loved Andor. I really thought it like was, I don't know, it had that Rogue One tone to it. And Rogue One for me, it took me a little while to get used to the tone because I wasn't used to it in Star Wars. I don't know if that's just me and like my love for the prequels. And I feel like I'm more of a prequelist than I am like an original trilogy. And I feel like if you like the original trilogy, you probably would hop on Rogue One's bandwagon more than that. But Andor really solidified like my love for Rogue One, and it really solidified my love for Andor's character. Like I was about to say Diego Luna's character. That's like the actor. I'm like, what the heck, Cassian Andor. But I really loved all like the episodes and like how the Empire, we got like a deep dive look into the Empire's like crazy like weirdo corruption stuff that they have all going on. Like we really get an insight into like their lives, and like if you mess up in the Empire, that one fool is just, you getting jacked up. But that's all I pretty much have to say on that. But I'm really excited for Andor season 2. Like I mean, they can't do really that much, but I mean, this guy Tony Gilroy is just killing it with any Star Wars project he does. Like he has a great vision, and I have a good feeling that he knows what he's doing, and I'm excited to see it. So, and then my number 3, I got Bad Batch. Guys. This is an amazing show. If you haven't watched Bad Batch, you're sleeping, because Star Wars at its best is Bad Batch, guys. Like, I'm not kidding when I say this. Season 1, episode 1 will kind of get you into it, okay? You get to see young Kanan Jarrus, young Caleb Doom, and it's kind of hype to see a deep voice, a little kid like that just pop off. And obviously, like, that's not really the best part of the show, but that was pretty interesting to see. That got me invested. Like, literally the moment in, I was like, yo, okay, we're getting a little backstory on like what's going on and how these clones didn't really have the microchip. Like, they weren't really affected. Like, they kind of were, because you'll get to see it in the show. But these guys are like such a sick crew, and like they're going through so much right now. Like as like family, like they're the only ones that, I don't even know what I'm talking about, guys. But legit, if you haven't seen Bad Batch, I swear on my life, you guys need to see Bad Batch. The characters are amazing. Wrecker, Crosshair is so interesting to me, and I was so like weirdly like wanting to see him in the season finale of season 2, and I haven't got it yet, so I'm still like so excited to see what's gonna happen with Crosshair. And I think we're gonna get into some crazy cool like infiltration of the Empire, and we're gonna obviously get her back, right? We're gonna get her back. I don't want to say any spoilers if you guys haven't seen Bad Batch, but it's incredible. But I got number 2, I got Star Wars Rebels, guys. Star Wars Rebels from beginning to end is great. I know people don't like how the show looks. Like, sometimes they're like, what the heck, you know, the thin lightsabers and all that. I don't know, maybe it's just because I've watched it a couple times. I just accepted it, and it looks good to me. It looks so good to me. Like, I think this show, if you've never watched this show and you want to give it a chance, I think the first 3 episodes in itself will hook you, like really hook you, and you won't want to stop. Like, I watched this show, rewatched this show on the treadmill recently, just to get prepared for Ahsoka, and this show hooks you like no other. Like, this show hooks you harder than Mando. It hooks you harder than Obi-Wan did. It hooks you harder than all the Star Wars shows. I think it hooks way harder than Clone Wars did too. Clone Wars didn't get off to the greatest start, in my opinion. But Star Wars Rebels just has that family aspect of Star Wars, which I love, which you see in the original trilogy a lot. And it felt like a original trilogy show. Like they made, like Dave Filoni really put all these characters in that fit so well together. Like I wasn't annoyed by anyone. I know a lot of people were annoyed by Ezra at first, but I really liked everyone in this show right away. Kanan is just one of the coolest Jedis in the freaking world. Like he's insane, and his, oh my gosh, like what happens to him is like insane and like so emotional. Him and Hera are like the mommy and daddy of the show. I don't know why I just said that. It's kind of weird. It's kind of cringe, but it's just, it hits so hard. Like Zeb and like Chopper and Ezra's relationship is like so like, it just reminds you of like all your friends that you wish were still around you, but they moved away. And then Sabine just is one of the coolest characters ever in Star Wars, and I'm so excited to see her in Ahsoka. And yeah, you guys need to see that show if you want to start Ahsoka. I mean, obviously I've heard Ahsoka, you don't have to watch Rebels, but I think it'll be so much better for you if you watch Rebels when they dig into the fights. Her and Vader going at it, oh my gosh, her and Vader, Maul showing up, the Obi-Wan episode with Maul, Thrawn, and just seeing how freaking smart and crazy he is. And like, I'm so excited to see Thrawn in Ahsoka. And yeah, that leads me to my number one show, guys. My number one show, 7 seasons, Star Wars Clone Wars. It just speaks for itself. You guys need to see this. If you haven't seen Clone Wars, I'd say look up a guide on Google and just look up all the important episodes you need to see. You can watch all of them if you want to. If you're really that into it, I'd say watch all of them. I personally didn't watch this show in its fullest until it was on Netflix. Because when I was a kid, Cartoon Network wasn't always available. Or like I wasn't always home when it was on Cartoon Network, so I had to watch it. When it came to Netflix, eventually it went off Netflix to Disney Plus, so you're able to watch it now, guys. But this show is just, it's freaking prequel to the max. You get to see all your favorite characters, all your favorite Jedi, all these crazy stories about the clones, all these emotional stories about the clones. You get to see the real insight into the Clone Wars, and you get to see Anakin and his like fight to stay on the path, and him training Ahsoka and his relationship with Ahsoka, and him and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is freaking weird in this show. Like he's not that weird, but like he looks so different. Like his fit, his outfit and stuff. He almost, I don't know what's going on with him, but I really love him in this show. And you get to see everything, and like even diving into like season 7, like it goes past episode 3, which is so cool. Like I love when Rebels, how it starts in season 4. I mean, not season 4. It starts like before episode 4, after episode 3. It's like right in between there, and it somehow ends after episode 6. Like I don't know, it's just like that Star Wars lore and that curiosity of what happened. Like we knew like what happened, but like it's just all that, and you get to see it, and Dave Filoni gives you that, like gives you exactly what you wanted, and he gives us that ending. Like Star Wars, these are the hardest shows to rank, because you honestly, you don't want to criticize anything about them. Like yes, there's a lot to criticize about them, but like really, I had the hardest time with just 1 through 6. With Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, Andor, Mandalorian, Tales of the Jedi are almost like besides Mandalorian season 3, like they're almost all perfect to me. Like I was like, what the heck? How do I even rank these? Like I was like on the edge of my seat during like the second half of season 2 of Bad Batch, and then when it ended on that cliffhanger ending, Like, I was like, this might be the best Star Wars I've ever seen. But that's just that high that you get from watching a Star Wars show. And when you watch Rebels, when you watch the ending of Rebels, you're like, whoa, I need to see Sabine get Ezra. Like, find Ezra. And now we're getting that with Ahsoka. And I'm really curious to where Ahsoka will land on this list. I'm hoping it lands at 1. I'm hoping it's really, really good. Star Wars really needs a banger right now. Like, because we've been slacking, guys. Star Wars, not we, but like, Star Wars has been slacking a little bit with Obi-Wan and Mando being like our most recent. Besides Andor. Andor was really good. But we need like a big time banger. I feel like a lot of people, maybe around me, didn't really like Andor. And I was like, why? I feel like I'm the only one that likes Andor. But I feel like there is those Star Wars fans that love Andor and that are excited for Andor Season 2. But anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about my list and give your guys' opinion on your list. I want to see your guys' list. Love you guys. Peace. Hope y'all have a good day. And may the Force be with y'all. Adios.